Welcome to this Build with Glide. I'm your host, Brett Harrelson, and today we're talking about Glide's brand new LMS and how it's built and all the back end and the front end. And joining us to talk about this is Oscar at V88 and Kate at Glide. Welcome, y'all.
Hey, how are you? You okay?
Oh, I'm so glad to do this. This is so incredible. This is such an awesome moment. I know this has been something that we've been building and excited about for quite some time. So this is such an awesome moment. And what I really want to talk about today is let's talk a little bit about the goal and the vision and the solution of the learning management system, specifically Glide's vision here, Kate's vision, and where we want to go. And we want to look a little bit at the solution itself and the app. Then we're going to take a deeper dive with Oscar, who actually configured and built this, which is incredible. So we're going to take a deeper dive into the actual solution and some of the things that were done in the components. And Oscar's going to take us deep in the weeds, and Kate's going to show us what's happening on the surface. I'm excited about this. Tell me where you're coming in from. Grab yourself a coffee or whatever your day beverage is, and let's jump in. So, Kate, I want to start with you on this. It's interesting when we talk about apps and solutions and all the powerful things Glide can do. Specifically for the LMS, what did Glide really need here?
Yeah, great question. So we already had an LMS. We launched our original LMS in September of 2022, so almost exactly a year ago. And I think it's important to go back to basics about like what an LMS is for. So an LMS is for curating learning content so that folks can learn stuff. And our old LMS allowed us to do that, but it was not very flexible in the way that we did that. So there are a few different things that are important. We need to be able to administer the app in an easy, reliable way. We need creators, both us and external creators, to be able to create lessons and courses for us in a relatively frictionless way. A little friction is important, but not too much. And then we need learners to be able to find the resources that they need. If it's too tedious to do that, then they're going to leave and they're not going to use the LMS. So there was a little bit too much, I guess friction is the right word. We had ambassadors from our old ambassador program who were in the LMS as creators, but it was tough. It was tough to put the content together into a course. It was tough to edit it. Believe it or not, we could not like rearrange the order of lessons in a course, for example. They would just exist in whatever order they had been uploaded in initially. So we needed more flexibility, and we needed learners to be able to find information just more easily. We didn't have multiple filtering in Glide when we made the first LMS, and we have it now. So it just was true that Glide had grown to such a point that we knew we could do a lot more with our LMS. And so when we got together with Oscar, he was like, let's just rebuild it. Like at this point, I think that we should. And so that's what we decided to do.
I love that. And I think one of the interesting pieces here that you said that I think is a little different than maybe, which I think makes Glide so powerful is the element of customization. And one thing that you said that I think is really crazy cool is Glide has such an amazing community, right? Mm-hmm. And we have people who are doing and building incredible things, and they're making tutorials and videos and walkthroughs and how-tos. How do we empower them to empower the next generation of gliders or the person that picks it up or whoever, right? So there's clearly some custom needs here. And I want to dive into this. One question before we get going, like, what was it like working with Oscar? Was it, or with an agency? And I think this is interesting for other agencies. Like what was compelling about Oscar? And of course we kind of know some of his track record, but if you didn't, what compelled you to Oscar?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we are an interesting customer for an agency because we're Glide. So we understand very specifically what Glide can do. We also understand what it's about to be able to do. Like we're kind of like pushing the limit. We're very knowledgeable. And so we knew that there were lots of different ways to approach this problem. There are what I would say is maybe more of like a hacky way where you can like build a really complicated structure on the back end to create the functionality that you want. But we also knew that it was possible to do it really clean. And I like a clean build. And that was one of the things that we really liked about V88. I think that they build clean, they build in Glide. So as much as they can, they use native functionality in Glide to get things done. And that's what we want to see. Other tools are great, but if we know we can do it with Glide, we want to do it with Glide. And so I think those were the two, the top things that we were really drawn to V88 for. And we have our eyes on a lot of different agencies. And so we're also unique in that we could really see kind of what the options were. And they just felt like a great fit for us.
I love it. I want to jump in and look at this, but real quick before we do, Oscar, is Glide a typical customer? Are we good? Are we bad? Where would you rate us?
Terrible. Never again. No, Glide, and in particular, Kate, who obviously we've been working with closely on this one, have been so good to work with. Obviously, it's different to a lot of our customers because that sort of knowledge gap of what can and can't be done is kind of already filled. So it's not so much about evaluating the capabilities of Glide with Glide as a customer. It's more just bashing heads basically to understand how can we get the best out of it. So obviously, in this case, also showcase what it can do. And I think that's why there was a massive importance on exclusively using Glide. There's some complex things going on in the LMS, but we wanted to keep it all within the realms of Glide because it's got to teach others how to use it, right? But it's also got to actually represent them. But they were brilliant to work with. Yeah, we've had a laugh. Our communication has just been amazing. So yeah, I would do it again any day. Yeah.
I love it. I'll keep my DMs open in case you want to have a private conversation with some complaints. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So Kate, let's jump in. Show us. I really want to see this. So where do you want to start, Kate?
Let's start with the public-facing university. So this is the interface for learners. Our three personas are really learners, creators, and administrators. So I'm going to show what we call Learn to Glide, which is Glide University. And this is where folks come if they want to learn how to use Glide. So it does not require a sign-in. You gain benefits if you create an account, like you can track progress and do all of these other sort of personalized things, follow people, bookmark things. But if you don't want to do that, if you just come here as a person with no account, you get to this interface. So we have featured courses here, which I go through as an administrator and flag. We also have featured lessons. We're featuring upcoming live events. Here's one that is happening right now. And we can put all of that on a homepage experience, which is new from the old LMS. We didn't have the ability to kind of pull content and curate it this way. And now I can do that. So as new stuff is coming in, either from our internal team or from our community, I can say, ooh, that's really topical, or, oh, I know people really care about that. Relations, like that's a biggie. We can put that right on the homepage and it's super easy. So that's the homepage. Should I go further, or did you want to ask questions about that?
Like show us no, I've seen this. So if I was someone that was a learner and just starting out, this is where I could go to see courses, lessons, or follow creators. Let's say, for example, Darren's here. So I see a client portal no code with Darren. I could click on that, follow it. This is what I would say like a topical LMS, what you would expect from one. But I know it's much deeper.
Yeah. So when you click into any of the courses, you get a lot more information about them. So you get a description of it. We have a total amount of time that course content should take you to work through. We also added a lot more detailed tagging and categorizing of topics so that it was easier for folks to search for exactly what they needed. And then it breaks down into every lesson. And if you love Darren, which we do, he also has a creator profile. So you can go in and look at that. You can see his other courses, his other lessons. Maybe you want to hire Darren. You can do that. You can check out his website. You can email him. So we've really added more functionality to these creator profiles so that we're also allowing our community to highlight all of that great work. Like we really want to pull that into the light. And so we're proud of the creator pages. You can browse just all the creators if you want to. If you come here to the creators page, maybe you really want to see courses by Stan, you can click here and you can go through all of his content and just like keep learning with him, which we love.
Now, when did this officially launch?
Monday of this week.
So literally just 3 days ago, 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible. I love this. Look at Darren. Look at this good looking guy coming. I don't know, Darren. No, that's sweet. This is awesome. Like, I love this. Let's go deeper. So show us more.
Yeah. So if you're a learner and you just want to browse courses or lessons, you can do that now in separate discrete pages. So courses will bring you to all of our currently published courses. We have a full comprehensive search, and we also have filtering. So if you want to see only things made by Glide, maybe you want to see only things made by Marco, you can choose if you have certain creators. If you're looking for certain topics, you can filter by all of those things. And the same is true in lessons. So in lessons, you have those same options of filtering and searching. And we also have this new What's New section, which I love because I'm a nerd. But so if you're a learning nerd like me and you're just like, what's the latest stuff that has been published in the LMS? You can go to What's New, and we have this feed now of all of the new content that is being published as it comes through. And folks should keep an eye on this throughout this month because we're running a community challenge right now to make new lessons and courses for the university. So as those get published, those will appear here.
I'll make
for those,
sure to add that to the
sorry to
description.
jump in.
No, come on.
For those who like the look of that, it's a custom collection. So if you haven't played around with custom collections and you're interested to kind of make lists of things look a bit different to how you're used to in Glide, custom collections are awesome because you can drop all the components that you can drop onto a screen into a collection itself. It's really cool. So little tip.
Well, I know you're going to give us a little bit of a more in-depth demo in just a few minutes. Maybe you could just show us what that looks like as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Happy to.
We'll add that because I think that's interesting. Kate, I love the What's New. I think that's really cool. So if you've been to the LMS, you've followed Darren or Marco or Bob, and you are familiar with certain things, but you want to see what's new to sort of brush up. That's a great place to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great place. All right. So this is the LMS. Is there anything else that you want to show us here? Because I know there's probably, I know the answer to that's probably yes.
Yes. I mean, I would have us just like watch all of these lessons together because I'm a nerd and I'm really proud of this. I know we don't have time for that. But I would say that I know that folks sometimes can feel like a course is a really big commitment, especially when they see that big number of how long it's going to take to go through all the content. And so if that's you, I would encourage you to check out the lessons page. That's where we have really discrete standalone lessons about so many different topics. And so if you're looking to just do one discrete thing, that's a great place to go and search and find shorter content. The other thing that I want to make sure I highlight is that really importantly, we didn't want to differentiate content from Glide from content coming from our community. We wanted to show all of that together because we think it's important that if you know how to use Glide, you can teach somebody else how to use it. You don't have to be Kate, you can be anybody who knows how to use Glide. And so now in the old LMS, those things were separate. And in the new LMS, it's all integrated together. So when you're browsing courses and lessons, you're seeing all of it. You're seeing a course from Glide and you're also seeing a course from Marco. And it's the same with lessons. So we're just bringing out all of the information and letting the learner choose, who do I want to teach me this? Maybe I like how Kate does it. Maybe I don't like how she does it. I want to hear Marco do it. And so we're empowering the learner to make that choice for themselves.
I love that. And I think this kind of ties in with the vision of where you wanted to go. And it's interesting too, because this is our second build of something that we've already had. So we already knew the things that we wanted in the first one that maybe it wasn't baked in. And now the second build, there's so much more we wanted to add. And I just love this feature.
Yeah, me too.
So we've seen courses, we've seen lessons, we've seen creators, we've seen what's new. I love the filtering ability. I love the searchability.
Mhm.
Like all of these things are really helpful and beneficial for learners.
Mhm.
What about creators, Kate?
Yes. So I can actually flip over here to the creator side if you like. Let me change my tab.
Let's say I'm making some really cool courses.
Mhm. Yeah. So the way that it works is you first create a lesson because courses are made of lessons. So this actually we did a lot of work on to make it a lot easier for folks to generate
A
both
lot.
lessons and all of it, really, like everything about it. Because there's a lot of things that you need. Like you need a library of your content that you can then pull into a course. And so the first thing I would say to do if you're a creator is to, once you set up your profile, then you get to start adding lesson content. And we wanted to create more types of media. And what I mean when I say that is you have a video medium, you could have a written medium, you could have an audio medium, maybe you have a PDF, maybe you have something that you're trying to share that was like a screen share. We wanted to empower creators to share in different formats. And so you can embed a video, you can embed a doc or any URL you want. If you have like a website that has an example and you want to show that, if you want to show an app, like you can embed whatever you want to put in here. People can tag with different topics and they can upload preview images for those lessons. And we actually have as many languages as we want, which is great. We've preloaded in these 4. But if anybody wants to add one, just let us know and we can it's very flexible. We can add more languages. And then you build a lesson library, which you can submit for approval. Our team can review that, make sure it follows our guidelines. And then once we approve, you can publish and add them to courses as you like.
Now, I know you changed tabs. We were on
Mhm,
the LMS, and now we're on the creator side. Now, are these
mhm.
different applications? Are these so these are different apps?
They're separate apps. Yep. So we have an app specifically for creators, and then we have the university app, which is for learners, but they to each other, which Oscar is going to talk about. So creators go into the creator app in order to make all of those lessons and courses. But then when they're published, they appear in the university.
Oscar, this sounds complicated. It sounds thorough, incredible, and it's extremely powerful. I can't wait to see how you've done this. So this is going to be exciting, I think, for everybody. So this is great. So this is where if I'm a creator, I've got a YouTube, I'm going to start making videos. I
Mhm,
can go make a lesson. I can bundle lessons into courses.
mhm.
This is incredible.
Yeah.
So 2 questions. Well, actually, I'll hold off on one of those maybe towards the end. Because by the way, if anybody does have questions for this, please go ahead and drop them, and I'll circle back towards the end. Is there anything here you want to show, Kate? Because I'm sure people are ready to see the Oscar's magic fingers.
No, go ahead.
Oscar, this is complex. It's a big tackle, and you've solved a lot of needs here. Where do you want to jump in? Like, let's learn a little bit here how you did this. How did you do this?
Yeah, so I think the first thing before I jump in, the first thing that's really important when you're building a solution in Glide, as a rule of thumb, I think, is understanding the use cases and the stakeholders. Because I think that plays a massive role in how you actually build your solution. And in some cases, you can use roles and row owners, and you can build one single secure app that has different types of users that have different roles and permissions. But sometimes when each use case is quite complex and quite different, because of the way that Glide works, you can build multiple apps onto the same data source. And therefore, what we tend to do with a more complex solution is create a dedicated app for each type of user. And it's beneficial for a number of reasons, primarily because you end up spending a lot less time configuring the UI and sort of setting up who can see what in your one massive complex app. And you spend more time focusing on actually delivering the functionality for each type of user in their dedicated app. So there's different ways you can do it, but with something like this, the first thing we thought was, okay, let's understand the use cases. And in this instance, let's build a dedicated app for each type of user. So Glide administrators have a dedicated admin app where they can approve content and see all the stats and those sort of things that they need to see. Creators have a dedicated app. And of course, the university itself. So students can either access it anonymously or they can sign up, create a profile for themselves, and then kind of learn and track their progress and things like that. So that's kind of rule number one. And that's what we did. So in terms of the functionality, Brett, I mean, what would you like to see? I'd planned to show something quite interesting, but quite in depth. It's really up to you guys.
Let's start light, and then I'll let everybody watching, as they want to learn more, if you ask your questions or you want Oscar to show you something he did or how he did it, let those questions rip right now, and we'll let this conversation, we'll let the chat steer.
I know that Darren wants to see the reordering of lessons, so I will show that at some point. But let me introduce the custom collection first on that what's new feed. So if I'm going to stop sharing and I'm just going to switch across to the university app. So cool. So as I say, often you see Glide apps with what we now call collections. So for example, the courses view, this is a collection. It's a collection component, which is a collection of the data from a given table. The same applies for lessons. This is simply a collection, and the same applies for creators. This is a collection with a different style. But sometimes there's a lot more information that you might want to put into a collection than kind of what you're given as standard. And that's why Glide, as per usual, ingeniously introduced a feature. And in this case, it's the custom collection. So a custom collection is a collection that pulls from a table of data, just like a normal collection does, except you can drop components into that collection that also display data from that table. So in our custom collection of activities, so the data source for this collection is coming from activities, and that's basically a feed of things that happen around publishing of lessons and courses. What we've done here is used a custom collection and dropped in all sorts of different components to show more information in the list view. And it's not something to take for granted that as a feature, because I mean, you could have a custom collection with, tens of components in if you wanted to. And it's given, as far as the feedback from all the other experts and everyone that we speak to within the Glide sphere, it's given huge amounts of flexibility to what you can do in terms of displaying lists of things. So here's a great example where we've dropped on a collection. We've introduced some text to pull through the entity. We've introduced an action row that shows the information about the creator. So that's a relation back to the creator. And that action row now within the list itself has an action that will take us to that creator. We've then introduced a separator just to make it look clean. And then some more text followed by a collection filtered to just show that course or lesson. So we get that nice card view. I hope that kind of makes sense as a brief breakdown and an example of how a custom collection is a really powerful feature in Glide.
I think so. By the way, we're getting some incredible questions. I'm going to try to get to them. Here's one I just want to toss at you since we're talking about collections.
Yeah.
And Oscar, would you say are collections in collections kind of like nesting dolls? Is that how you kind of think about it?
Yeah, it really depends on the scenario. There's different use cases for them. Primarily, when we use a custom collection, it's where you want to see a list of items, of things, but each thing has a lot of information. And you can customize how you display that information in the list rather than having to click through to what Glide calls the details screen every time you want to find out more. So it's streamlining how you display your data, basically. So yeah, I guess nesting is quite a good word. Whoever said that.
It was David, and I think David's on to build great things because he's having an aha moment. So the collection has a filter.
I see what he's talking about. Yeah. So the collection within the collection. So this is a collection that basically pulls through. It's a collection of all of the courses, but we're essentially in a simplified version, we're pulling through the one course that is this item. I hope that makes sense. It is a little bit, that it's it's really cool. So yeah,
it's complex, but these sort of complex techniques and abilities is really what makes Glide so powerful. And I'm loving this deep dive. Oscar, where do you want to take us next? There's still some of the questions. I really want to hone in on one real quick. Jeremy asked a really great one. You touched a little bit on this earlier, but what was the main reason that made you create separate apps? You touched on it. Give me a 10-second answer to why you decided to create separate apps again for the university versus the creator.
Yeah, sure. You're absolutely right, Jeremy. Roles and filtering and all of that are incredibly powerful. When you have 3 different types of user and one type can see all of a user's information. So what I mean by that is in the admin use case, they want to see all students and their information, and they want to see all creators and their private and public information. But on the student side, students shouldn't really see other students' information because that's private. So when you have a situation where some users' information needs to be kept private and another user wants to be able to see everything, introducing row owners in that instance, you can do it, but it adds complexity. And if you imagine for a second, Jeremy, trying to, in one app, allow creators to access all of the 5 tabs that there are in the creator app where they can manage their lessons and their courses, etc. But then if a student's seeing it, you're filtering it so that they're not able to edit or manage their own lessons, but they're just viewing other people's ones. Suddenly it becomes a lot more time consuming. And in my experience, it can take more time to create something like this in one app than it can to actually build them out in separate apps. As I say, in my experience, it's a personal preference. But something like this, I would always advise multiple apps, because from a pricing point of view, you don't pay per app with Glide, you pay on the team level. So you can, on the majority of plans, have a ton of apps all sat on the same data source at no extra cost. And if you really want to streamline something, that's the way to do it.
And that's, and just to come at it from a Glide point of view, we see that from a lot of our users and a lot of businesses that are using multiple solutions. They're starting to tie into different data systems, but they need different solutions for different integral points. So it's really interesting that the solution you've brought is kind of becoming, I'm seeing it a lot more. And I don't know if you know this, but David has 20 plus years experience in LMS systems, and he hasn't seen anything as close to this flexibility. So wow. I I love your example here in the power of Glide. So let's keep moving. Oscar, what other elements would you like to show us?
Are there any questions that we want to kind of look at, or would you like me to jump into sort of the creator side and give an overview of how we've handled probably the trickiest part of the entire solution?
That's what everybody, I think, is really dying to see,
Okay.
myself included. Which, by the way,
Okay.
just so everybody knows, we didn't do this beforehand, so I'm really excited to see this.
Okay, let's do it. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to switch over to the creator app. Cool. So let me introduce the scenario. So in Glide, you have the concept of relations, which is where you link data in one table to data in another table. And these relations can either be one-to-one, i.e. singular. So where a column in one table matches some information in another table. Or they can be one-to-many, where a column in one table matches a bunch of information from another table. Now, the requirement for the LMS is slightly different because it's a many-to-many relationship in the sense that a course can have multiple lessons, but a lesson can belong to multiple courses. And this comes up fairly often in some of the more sort of complex solutions that we work on. And the way that we have approached it is by using what we call a join table. So I'm going to briefly introduce this concept. So if I firstly view as, I'm going to view as a Glide creator. So as Glide, this is kind of how it looks. So they can obviously create their courses and they have their course library, and they can create lessons and they have their lesson library. But within a course, so for example, Glide plus AI, they can, of course, include lessons from their library and remove a given lesson from their library. But they can also add any of these lessons to another course. And not only can they do that, they can also change the order in which they appear. So let's say actually we want the OpenAI integration setup to be the first lesson in this course. They can change the order. And believe it or not, it's actually really quite hard to do this. So the way we handle many-to-many relations is using something called a join table. And what that does is it sits between the two entities that you want to relate. And in this case, we have in our join table here, we have a relation to a course and a relation to a lesson via their IDs, which allows us to join them together, which means a lesson can jump into this join table one or more times and be featured in a bunch of different courses. So that's kind of how that works. And I think I will look to create a lesson on this at some point and publish it into the LMS because it comes up time and time again.
I'd like to know, when you say join table, what does that mean? How do you, what is a join table? How would I create a join table? If I've got different data sets, how would I make a data set have a join table? Could you right click and show us, like, just real quick where that is in the menu?
So say that again, Brett.
Could you show us how you would create a join table in a data set?
So essentially, let's take this example right in front of us. Okay, so we have a table of creator lessons, and I'm not going to jump into the table because there's people's email addresses are part of this. But in the every lesson has a unique ID. Okay, so in the traditional Glide world, if you wanted to relate a single lesson to a course, then in the course table, in that row, you would have a column that was the lesson ID. Okay. And that means you could create a relationship from that course row back to the lesson, matching on the ID. So in this world, what we do is whenever somebody wants to introduce a lesson to a course, we add a row to our join table, which includes the unique ID for both the course and the lesson, and creates a relationship between the two of them. Does that make sense?
100%. I'm with Sharon. It makes complete sense. I'm learning here, and Kathy wants you to hurry up and get on that lesson. She's ready to learn from you, Oscar. So
okay. Well, look, I will at some point in the near future, I'll put together a lesson on this. The other thing that I will include in that lesson is how to choose the order in which these lessons appear within a given course. And if I'm honest, it's going to be super, super difficult to explain this right now. But basically, have a think about this. So it's essentially, it's about knowing, it's about knowing, based on the lesson that you want to change, what is above it and what is below it in a sequence. Okay, so we have a raw sequence column here, and we use this column to create a key, and that is the ID of the lesson with the sequence on it. And essentially, and this is where it gets really, really, really tricky. When you want to change the sequence of it, what we do is we store a temporary variable, i.e. the current sequence order of the lesson that you're moving. Okay, we replace the lesson that we're moving up to, and then the lesson that's just been moved down takes from that temporary value and puts it in there, and that allows us to make a swap, and it all hangs off of this temporary variable. And that's really all I can say at this point. But what I promise to do is put together something that shows exactly how to do this, because a lot of people come across it, and I think we have a really good way of doing it.
Yeah, and you've already got requests. People are ready. I know Kathy's ready, so I'm ready. So
Cool.
100%.
Okay.
I love this.
Well, I'm gonna have I'll pencil some time into the calendar, and we'll get that nailed.
This is really interesting. I think there's really some big takeaways here, Oscar, and Kate. I'll bring you back here just for a second. I think a few things that are kind of mind blowing to a lot of people is knowing when to create multiple apps. And there were several comments around that, knowing when to, how to interface these things. So I think that's a huge thing. Oscar, I think another big piece here that's really interesting is how you ordered things and give that to the creator. Like, that's a huge thing. And sometimes it's just little things. And Kate, what really kind of, in all of this, what was maybe a piece that you just, I know you like the new courses. What's new, right? So what other element here do you think is really, really kind of amazing?
Yeah, I think the flexibility for creators to just do more when they're making both lessons and courses, like being able to rearrange your lessons, is so important. What if you build something and then later you realize you forgot to say something at the start? And now it's impossible to go back and say it. That was true in our old LMS, but it's not true now. And I think a lot about, we want our community to be empowered and excited to build lessons and courses and share their knowledge with everybody else. And so if it's hard to do that, they're not going to do that. Like, time is precious. People have stuff to do. We have to make sure that it's easy enough that it's worth people's time to come in and do this, because it's so valuable for everyone who uses Glide, not just for our team. It's valuable for everybody. So I think that the improvements that we made with the Creator app to make lesson and course construction a lot more refined were really important, and I'm just super excited about that.
I agree. I agree. Well said. Oscar, it's a masterpiece. It's just, once again,
Thank
another
you.
incredible solution and app that I've seen on Glide. And I'm really thankful for you to come and show us and all the lessons you're going to create that you just promised 50 lessons. That's what you said today, right? I'm holding you to it. 50 lessons.
Yeah, 100 lessons. Yeah.
500 lessons.
I will create some. I will be creating some. It's on our roadmap. It's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And yeah.
This is great. And Kate, it's really awesome to see the evolution of Glide and the evolution of our community LMS. And it's just so awesome to see all these things kind of come together. This has been such an educational moment I think for a lot of people. So if there's any other questions, let's just keep this in the community and we'll make a thread and let's just kind of follow this and see if there's any more questions. Oscar, I'm sure people will have lots of love, lots of questions, and Kate will be there. So I really, really love this. Like this is incredible.
Hey, can we answer Kathy's question about why we've named why we have tables like creator profiles, creator lessons?
Before we go, I want to grab one more question, and I agree. Kathy wants to know why you do have those tables, and are you creating tables just for relations? This was the last question I wanted to grab.
So it's all just naming for ease of development and subsequently for supporting apps. Naming is everything in Glide, and if your columns and tables aren't named right, then when you start adding complexity and relating and looking up on different values all over your data, if it's not named correctly, it's just going to become super difficult to A, add features, and B, debug. Because if you want to go back and work out how you did something, naming your columns exactly as they are, and the same for the tables, is essential. So literally, this is just profiles that relate to creators. This is lessons that relate to creators, and these are courses that relate to creators. So it is essentially just relating tables back to the kind of master, for want of a better phrase. That you basically nailed it, Kathy. It's tables for relations, and it's all about naming them correctly. It's super important. I cannot stress the importance of how you name things.
And that goes back to what I was saying at the start about how V88, they build clean, right? They build clear, and it takes planning and like real thought to make your ultimate build that clean. But it's really important, especially for if you're doing this for someone else, if you're an agency and you're building this for a client, you want to hand them something that they can understand. And so being really clear with how you set things up like that, I think really helps when you have customers too.
Totally.
I agree.
Yeah. It's so easy, to build a nice looking user interface in Glide, because it's just the genius of the product, right? There's nothing like it on the planet in terms of building a beautiful looking app at the speed at which you can. There is nothing like it. We've tried everything, and we can't, there's nothing like it. Database structure is everything. And part of that is how you name things. It's so important. It really is.
I'm sorry, Kate, go ahead. Jump in.
Well, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but what Oscar just said reminded me that I think a lot of folks who don't code for their job don't spend a lot of time thinking about data and how it interacts with code and how it is manipulated and displayed by code. But I think that a big way to unblock that for folks who don't think about code a lot is to just highlight for them that content is data too. So if you are someone who works with a lot of content, what we have in our data table is our content. It is our learning content. And content is something that everybody understands. And so when you really think about how you're labeling columns and tables, you're thinking about how you're organizing your content. Just like if you were going to put it into a filing cabinet with different folders, you don't want to write random stuff on the cabinet and on the folders. You're never going to find the stuff that you filed away. And so I think that really just changing the way that we think about it, especially when we're talking about customers, again, I think that really helps people understand, oh, okay, this is how I'm organizing all of my stuff. Of course, I need to organize it in a way that is clear and makes it easy to find and interact with.
I love that. So there's three
It's a
prime
really good
takeaways.
analogy.
Yeah, it's
really
a
good
fantastic analogy.
Nice.
I couldn't have done it better. No,
I'm obviously stealing it.
So there's three prime takeaways. One, check out the Glide's new LMS. I've got a link in the description. Two, go ahead, if you like this, subscribe to the channel because we'll be doing these again. And three, I want to remind everybody, first off, thanks for coming. This has been incredible. And Oscar, thank you to you and Kate. Like, I love y'all. This is fantastic. And lastly, next week, well, not next week, on the 15th of August, we're going to be doing another Build with Glide, focusing on work order management. And we've got a rock star lineup there as well. So this has been incredible. I thanks for your questions, and thanks y'all for answering these. Like, this is incredible. Is there anywhere else you want to send them, Kate? Is there anything else? Oh, and we also have a community challenge to build courses. I'll also add that to the description as well. So there's 4 takeaways.
Yeah, come build courses. We have cash prizes. We want to see what you know.
Love it. I love it. This has been fantastic. Again, thanks everybody. And let's do this again. I'll see you on the 15th of August for the next Build with Glide. Bye, y'all.
Thank you. Bye.